Hi, and welcome to my channel. This is part 2 of the building of a model railroad lighting sequencer using electronics to randomly turn on lights across your layout. In part 1 we talked about the 555 timer, which is the basis for the lighting sequencer. If you haven't seen that part 1 version of the video, I highly recommend it, because even if you're not going to build a lighting sequencer we're going to put together here, the 555 timer has a wide variety of applications in other electronic projects. It's been around for many years, it's well understood, it's easy to use, and it comes in several versions, including a CMOS version. So take a look at that if you haven't seen it already. In this video, we're going to combine the 555 timer into a lighting sequencer using a counter. So hope you enjoy this. And if you have any comments, let me know. At the end of the video, I'm going to talk about the final implementation and what I did. I put some extra features in there, and also about the availability of parts and boards. Okay, let's get started. This is the model railroad light sequencer final build. This is part 2, which combines a 555 timer with a counter. Okay, so what are the light sequencer goals? First of all, I wanted something that was high density and low cost. I wanted something that was random or quasi-random, and by that I meant it has to look random in lighting, not necessarily strictly be random. Wanted it to be adjustable, dimmable, scalable, and I didn't want to deal with any coding in case I wanted to change the timing. I wanted a hardware-only solution. And lastly, I wanted common through-hole parts. This is the TLC 555 timer astable mode. As I mentioned in the last video, the LED is just connected to the output. It's a period of about 2 seconds. And the duty cycle is what it is. It's probably mostly on, it looks like. As I alluded to in the previous video, we're going to combine a timer with a counter. And we have 2 different types of counters. A CD4520, which is a binary counter. It's actually a dual counter. And we have a decade counter, a 4017 decade counter. I'll show you the difference between the two, and we'll build one of each. Okay, this is a typical circuit you can find online for the decade counter with a 555 timer. And essentially, the 555 timer is over here, and it pulses. And every time it pulses this input of the decade counter, these LED lights come on in sequence. And that's why it's called a decade counter. It's 1 of 10. So this is an example of a commercially available ring counter or sequencer. It's using this 4017 decade counter I showed before. There's a couple of problems with this though. It has surface mount parts, so it's difficult to change parts on it. And obviously it's moving too fast here, so you'd have to change a potentiometer and or a capacitor to slow it down. And the LEDs are soldered on the board. So to locate them in buildings or around the layout, you'd have to unsolder these LEDs, and then you'd have to solder in some wires to reach the buildings you want to reach. Also, again, because it's surface mount parts, it's difficult to change. The upside is it's very cheap. It can be purchased assembled or as a kit. This is the design I standardized on. I used an online calculator, but you can see the formulas up here in the upper left-hand corner if you want to use it manually. I did a couple of things. I moved the R2 resistor or pot between pins 7 and 8 in series with this resistor rather than up in R1 where the previous schematic was, because I found out that I had much better range if the pot was here. So based on the online calculator information that I got, I made R1 22K, and R2 would vary between 100K and 1.1 meg, depending on the setting of R2. If R2 was 0, then it would be 100K across pins 7 and 2, and if R2 was 1 meg, the resistance would be 1.1 meg across pins 7 and 2.
And if I set the capacitor to 100 microfarads, then the period was about 15 seconds to 154 seconds, or 0.26 minutes to about 3 minutes. The duty cycle was approximately 50% in most cases, which means it's going to blink on 50% of the time and it'll be off 50% of the time. Now this is the design of the standard timer circuit we talked in the previous slide, and the 4017 decade counter, the dual decade counter. I added a LED here just to show when the timer was pulsing. When it's high, this LED would come on, just so I could make sure that the timer was in fact working. Every time it pulses, it would trigger this clock line, and one of these LEDs would come on in sequence. So one would come on at a time, and the next pulse, that one would go off, and the next LED would go on, and so on. I'll show you that demonstration in the next circuit. So this is a breadboard version of the previous circuit. You'll notice here next to the timer is the timer LED that comes on and off. And every time it comes on or blinks on, a different LED is triggered based on the output of the decade counter. Now this looks a little bit more random because I've arranged the lights more randomly and not in a straight line. However, you'll notice that only one LED comes on at a time. So I think it can be improved even further. So this is the circuit for a binary counter, and everything on the left, the timer circuit, is exactly the same, except it's putting its output into the binary counter on the left side, and there's four outputs on the left side of the counter and 4 outputs on the right side of the counter. So here's a breadboard version using a binary counter. You can see the timer LED blinking on and off with each pulse. And you can see the decade counter outputs counting in binary over here on the left. Now, again, this is a dual binary counter, so you can have another 4 LEDs on the right. And I'll show you how we're going to put these packages together in the next slide. Now, the good news also is that the 556 timer is basically the same as a 555 timer, except it has 2 timers in it. And the 4520 decoder has 2 separate binary decoders in it. So with 2 chips, we can have 8 LEDs and 2 timers separately. Okay, let's go through the circuit board. Over here in the upper left-hand corner is the power connector for 12 volts. This is the power on LED. The left side of the board is for the first timer. This LED blinks on and off with the first 555 timer going on and off. This LED is for the second timer on the right side of the board going on and off. Up here is the adjustment for the rate that we talked about earlier, which can adjust the timer anywhere from 15 seconds to about 3 minutes. And this terminal block, if it's shorted out, regardless of what this adjustment is, will go to the shortest period. So it'll go to 15 seconds in this case. And that's so you don't have to mess around with the adjustment to see if it's working. You could have this set for 3 minutes, but if you short this out, it'll be 15 seconds. Same on the right side of the board. You can have independent periods. One could be 20 seconds on the left side of the board, could be a minute on the right side of the board. Down here are the brightness controls for each LED, and these terminal blocks connect to the LEDs. Up here on the right-hand corner is the connectors so that this can be daisy chained to other boards without having to put a separate power connector in it. So let's take a look at it actually working. This is the light sequencer in operation. A couple of points I wanted to make. This is greatly accelerated in order for this demonstration. Otherwise the file would be too big. You can see it counting in binary. There are no resistors required, external resistors required for the LEDs. And also keep in mind that even though the 555 timer LED is blinking once every, let's say, 3 minutes in normal use, for the circuit to go through all 16 combinations and counting in binary, it would take 16 times 3 or 48 minutes to cycle through all 16 combinations. And the same for the other side of the circuit, obviously. So here's a little trick that might be helpful to use. Normally the output of the circuit board goes through an LED and goes back to ground. However, if you hook up another LED with the opposite polarity and hook it up to 12 volts, that when the output is high, this LED will come on, and when the output is low, this LED will come on. So by doing this, you can have either one LED or the other LED always on, and you can basically have, instead of 8 channels, 16 channels coming out. If you make sure that these are randomly located, then you shouldn't have a problem.
Well, that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I have a limited number of boards and parts kits available, so if you're interested in that, I'll put a link to an email address where you can contact me for that. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and please remember to like and subscribe.